There is a place that is spoken about only in whispers, a dark area that spawns the beginnings of urban legends, a place where anything can happen and usually does. During the light of day, it hides just outside of view, but when the sun goes down, spirits, creatures of the night, roam free, and things do go bump in the night. It is in every state and every country, and there is no escaping it, no matter how safe you feel behind your locked doors and latched windows. So we invite you to turn down the lights and turn up your radio while we join Dave Schrader and Tim Dennis, your hosts, on a journey into the darkness on the edge of town.
Hello and welcome. You're tuned in to the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness. I'm your host, Dave Schrader, and over at the Supernatural News Desk, Mr. Tim Dennis. Hello, Tim.
Hello.
We've got some stories to share today from around the world. Looks like we've even got some new callers that have left messages for us, Tim.
Well, yeah.
New stories of the paranormal. I'm kind of enjoying this. I like the number. I like having some place for them to call.
Yeah.
They feel like they're connecting with us, Tim. It's like the little people matter to us again.
Oh, how dare you, sir?
What?
What? Little people?
You don't think they matter? Wow, you are harsh.
No, I didn't say they didn't matter.
Don't worry, little people. I still love you.
Oh,
even though Tim has apparently turned his back on you underlings,
no,
I still think of you as somebody worthy of stepping on my way to the top.
Oh, my God.
Thank you for being there. I love you.
Jeez.
What?
Don't call them underlings and little people.
Well, they're little people.
They're known as midgets.
They're not.
No, I mean.
They're not powerful workforce radio hosts like you and I, Tim. They're not in the middle to upper echelon of the lower end of celebrity. All right. We've got a lot of cool stuff going on, a lot of weird stories to share. Your Parashare stories a little bit later on in the show, but where will we begin in the world of supernatural news this week?
Dave, let's get naked.
Really?
Well, this guy got naked.
Oh.
Yeah.
So we should get naked because some guy got naked?
No, we're not getting naked. This guy's getting naked. I should probably clarify.
Hey, Timmy, have you ever been to a Grecian bathhouse?
No.
All right. What's the story?
I'm intrigued now. You're saying Grecian bathhouse.
Don't you remember that from the movie Airplane when the little kid comes into the cockpit and he's talking to...
thought you were going to actually describe it to me.
No.
All right, then.
Hey, little Timmy, do you like Roman gladiator movies?
I do remember that line. Yeah. A man caught stuck in a locked gate, totally naked. Naked. I can't say naked. I got to say naked.
Naked? He was naked?
He was naked.
Uh-huh.
Claimed he found himself in the predicament while hunting for ghosts.
Huh. Let's see. 12 years I've been doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Should be nude?
Should be.
Okay.
Naked and investigating. That's a new series, I believe.
I think they actually did a naked and ghost hunting.
Wasn't Scott Grunwald part of that whole deal?
I don't know. He should be.
I think if anyone's going to be, I think it's him.
I would agree. Yeah. All right. So what the guy was naked.
Yeah.
And he claims he was hunting ghosts.
Hunting ghosts. When a passerby stopped by to find out more, he told the man he was a paranormal investigator. Of course he did. The witness who offered some friendly advice for the man to make sure he didn't tear his privates in the metal gate. Filmed the bizarre encounter. Of course he did. In the video, filmed in the city of Rostov-on-Don in Russia's southwestern Rostov Oblast region.
So this took place in Russia?
Yeah.
Are you just putting me on?
I'm not putting you on.
Are you sure?
No, I'm not.
All right.
The unnamed man is seen hanging out of the gate, I bet he is, appearing to be trapped by his legs. When asked what had happened by the person filming, the naked man responds, "I'm a paranormalist."
I am paranormalist. Please go get me crowbar and some Crisco. These bars are very squishy.
You would think they'd be cold enough for him to get through eventually.
Oh, yeah.
Paranormalists study paranormal life, such as unexplained events or non-scientific bodies of knowledge. I didn't know it had an actual term. I didn't know that was a thing. Most well-known paranormal theories involve a fascination with ghosts, extraterrestrials, psychic abilities, and UFOs. It is unclear what exactly the naked man was studying inside the building that he later became trapped outside of. I'm guessing it was somebody else. Just saying.
Yikes.
Yeah. After asking the man filming him to help him escape from the gate, he is told, "How can I open it? I don't have a key." Before the passerby adds, "Watch out for your balls not to tear off."
Oh, God. That's good. You know what, though? In life, that's good advice.
It really is, yeah. That's that, and
I'm so uncomfortable now.
that, and always carry extra change for the bus.
Yeah,
That's
where
always
would you hold it, though, if you're naked?
Well, there are places.
Really?
Yeah. Luckily, the trapped ghost hunter manages to shimmy his way out of the fence to freedom, just like a little baby fawn.
Oh.
The city of Rostov-on-Don hosted 4 group games during the 2018 World Cup, none of them naked, by the way.
I was going to say, was naked ghost hunting one of them?
No.
I'm just training for the next big contest.
Yes.
Competition. I like to find my... So without clothes, I can run after ghosts so much further. Less friction and wind resistance.
That's exactly what it is.
But first, we get moose and squirrel.
As well as one of the final 16 games between Belgium and Japan. That was in the Rostov arena. So none of those were naked either. None of the players. They all managed to keep their clothes on. It was a wonderful World Cup. I don't know.
Hey, Rocky, why is that guy naked in a fence?
The look of astonishment, too, is amazing.
It's a little bit of shame. At least he's built for it.
Yeah, he is.
Right? I mean, he looks like he works out.
He does. Yeah. I'm sure. Or he's starving, one or the other.
Well,
Not enough on the ration line.
Where are we off to next?
Ron Mallett says that we can build a real time machine, Dave. We can do it.
Really?
Yeah. This is what he claims.
Wait a minute. Does this entail like tin cans and wire and bubble gum and like watching episodes of MacGyver backwards so that I can learn how to do something? Because I'm not good, Tim. When it comes to that, I'm just not good. I'm not very handy.
It may not be that.
No?
Maybe
blender and some Legos, maybe a Lincoln log or two.
Closer.
All right, let's hear what the guy's got to tell.
That. Ron Mallett has a dream. He wants to travel in time, and it isn't mere fantasy. Mallett is a respected professor of physics, so it may be a little bit more than Lincoln logs and Legos. I think of myself as being an ordinary person with a passion, and my passion is a possibility of time travel, he says. Professor Mallett has wanted to build a time machine for most of his life. His passion, he explains, can be traced to a tragic event early in his life. Oh, that ain't good.
No.
Ron's father, a heavy smoker, died of a heart attack at the age of 33 when Professor Mallett was just 10 years of age. Ron was devastated and withdrew into his books.
No, Ron, don't do it. You can't go back in time and save your dad. You're going to upset the balance of nature.
Well, that's what he plans on doing.
Things could happen, Tim. You go back in time, you save, right?
Right.
You save your father who passed away of cancer, right? And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, Dave and Tim are wildly famous, skinny, full head of hair radio hosts.
Where's the bad thing here?
All right, maybe that was not the right choice.
Okay.
It could be that we end up wildly famous TV show celebrities, Tim.
Okay.
Something horrible like that could happen.
Oh, where's the bad thing here?
The taxes would be so much higher, Tim. Taxes. You don't want to deal with the IRS, trust me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Then.
Yeah, bad things, Tim. I'm just saying things have a way of not correcting properly, Tim.
The butterfly effect.
Yes.
I like a butterfly to tickle me.
Could have turned out that we didn't get the Spider-Man movies we've always expected. Guillermo del Toro or M. Night Shyamalan may have directed them.
Don't say like that.
I'm just saying. See, there's all these changes.
That's a dirty word.
Which one?
M. Night Shyamalan and Spider-Man together.
Exactly.
That's.
So this cat believes he can build a. I want to talk to him. Get him on the phone. Boop, 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 boop.
Ron Mallett, Dave Schrader, attorney at law.
Hold on, let me get my boy Sherman.
He has a boy named Sherman, I'm sure he does.
Well, of course he does. He's a time traveler.
He probably does. A year after that, when I was 11, he went on to say, I came across the book that changed everything for me. That was The Time Machine by H.G. Wells. Oh, he believed it was real, bless his heart.
Maybe it was. What if Wells was really writing a book on what to expect once we figure it out? Because Wells already had it handled.
Oh.
Right? Mind blown.
Wow. The cover caught my attention, he went on to say, but it was when I read the inside and it said scientific people know very well that time is just a kind of space and that we can move forward and backwards in time just as we can in space. When I read that, I said, this is wonderful. Professor Mallet explains, if I could build a time machine, then I could go back into the past and see my father again.
Turn back
no, he's going to do it. He's going to screw up the time.
If I could find a way. I think I just blew out my headset.
I think you did.
Did you hear that crackle on that?
Yeah,
I'm a powerful singer when I'm channeling Cher. I miss Cher. I wish she hadn't left this mortal coil.
Dave, she's in a
the way
brand
she
new
just
movie.
moved right through me in that spiritual sense.
You
it's
can
like
watch
she was there.
Cher sing ABBA
I know,
in
you can,
the
because
new movie, Mamma Mia.
You can watch her all the way back into the 60s with Sonny Bono reruns on YouTube, Tim. It's amazing what's available out there.
Really? I mean, she's alive. She's doing a press tour right now.
She's alive in our heart all the time, Tim.
No, she's actually doing stuff
because
right now.
Because if I could turn back time, I'd save Cher's life,
She's like 110 years old right now.
No, you don't remember because your mind hasn't caught up ever since Ron Millett built his time machine.
Professor Mallet.
And yeah, that's what I said. And he saved his own father. We lost Cher, Tim. You don't remember that aspect of history yet?
You mean she's not singing ABBA in the movie?
No, and Emperor John F. Kennedy is very upset about it as well.
Emperor Kennedy?
Yes. See what happens when you mess with timelines, Tim.
Jeez. Mm-hmm. Damn you, Professor Mallet.
If I could turn back time.
Just trying to blow up my board is what you're trying to do.
Yeah. Now I've got a goal.
Now I've got a goal. He said, if I could build a time machine, okay, then I'd go back to the past, see my father again, and maybe save his life and change everything. Don't change everything.
No, you would want to, totally want to.
Professor Mallet, you evil. It's like he's Lex Luthor.
No, he's not. He's trying to save his dad's life.
Yeah, but what if Hitler comes back?
I don't think this took place during the time of Hitler. Is that it? He goes back to like 1985 and saves his father from smoking, and somehow Hitler's life is re-energized?
Yeah.
Wow, there is deeper implications of time travel than I'm ready to accept.
That's what I'm saying. Time travel may sound far-fetched, but scientists are already exploring, Dave, several mysteries of nature that could one day see Ron's dream fulfilled. Albert Einstein thought the three dimensions of space were linked to time, which serves as a fourth dimension. He called this system space-time. Do you need me to turn this off?
No, I'm good. No, I sneezed in silence.
I love that Ron Simon song. Ron Simon and Paul Garfunkel.
Yes.
I love that. Yeah,
is this another effect of time travel?
It is, yes.
Ron Simon and Paul Garfunkel.
Yeah, they screwed up the time stream. He called the system space-time, by the way. Albert Einstein did, and it's the model of the universe that we use today. But Einstein also thought it was possible to fold space-time, creating a shortcut between two distant locations. This phenomenon is called a wormhole, Dave, and it can be visualized as a tunnel with two openings, each emerging at different points in space-time. Wormholes might exist naturally in the cosmos. Indeed, scientists in Russia are trying to use radio telescopes to detect them, but using wormholes for time travel won't be straightforward. The nearest ones could be many light years away, and even if you could get to them and then survive the journey through them, there's no guarantee where you'd end up. Wow. Sounds like a party to me.
Yeah, it does.
Sounds like a party in college.
It's like party roulette.
Yeah.
Just plug in a number and jump on through, and you don't know where you're going to end up.
Leave your keys to the door and eat the Mickey Mouse-shaped tab. That's what I'm saying.
What?
I don't know. But some physicists have speculated that we might be able to conjure up bespoke wormholes at some point in the future, though we currently have no idea how. Physics also predicts that wormholes would have a habit of collapsing, crushing whatever's inside them. Oh, that doesn't sound good at all.
Suddenly, time travel sounds a lot more dangerous.
It sucks.
Yeah.
If a time machine is ever to exploit them, we'd have to find a way to stop this inconvenient feature. The mysterious...
It's just an inconvenient feature. Is that really downplaying a selling point?
It's like if the dryer were to crush your clothes. It's an inconvenient feature, but
I'm
hey,
Bill
they get
Curtis,
dry.
and I'm here to talk to you about time travel. Yes, you could visit any point in history, future and past. However, there is the opportunity that the entire black hole and wormhole could collapse, crushing you and ending your trip. But let's not focus on that.
Sounds intriguing to me. The mysterious phenomena of dark energy might provide a solution. In the 1990s, astronomers found that the expansion of the universe was speeding up rather than slowing down, as might have been expected. Something out there is having an anti-gravity effect. It's pushing rather than pulling. We don't know what that is, but it makes up most of the universe. We call it dark energy, says Professor Tamara Davis, a cosmologist at the University of Queensland in Australia. A wormhole will only work for time travel if its mouth can be held open for long enough that it allows something to travel through it. Oh, much like a Big Mac in front of me. That requires something called negative energy, which doesn't really exist in the everyday world. But the dark energy that permeates the cosmos fits the bill. If we can figure out what it is, we might be able to prop open a wormhole long enough to go in one end and out the other, which sounds kind of painful. We don't know whether we are able to make a wormhole, whether that's technically within our capabilities, but who knows what a future human civilization is going to be able to do, says Professor Davis. Technology has advanced so rapidly that maybe space and time themselves are something that can come under our control. Wormholes exist at the most speculative ends of physics, offering one approach to traveling in time, but Ron Mallett has another. He has drawn up plans for an actual time machine, and his concept was inspired by a book that he read at age 12 about Albert Einstein's equations. Professor Mallett has built a tabletop device that illustrates principles he thinks could be used to build a real working time machine. First, the lasers are used to generate a circulating beam of light. The space inside this ring laser should become twisted like a stirring cup of coffee.
So he's created a tabletop version. Mm-hmm. So are we sending like Ken dolls into the future or the past?
Ken and Barbie first, because if anything's going to get crushed, it should be them. Right.
Wow.
Yeah. Because space and time are intimately connected, warping space should also warp time. Professor Mallett's theoretical work has shown that given enough laser intensity in a small enough space, so you just chop your arms off, essentially.
Wow.
It should be possible
dramatic.
A little bit. It should be possible to alter the normally linear timeline we all inhabit. If space is being twisted strongly enough, this linear timeline is going to be twisted into a loop. If time all of a sudden is twisted into a loop that allows us the possibility of traveling into the past, says Ron Mallett. This just sounds like we're all going to get chopped into a laser Cuisinart if we don't.
Let's not focus on the negative, Tim. I'm Bill Curtis, and I approve this ad.
So bend it like Beckham or get chopped up like a Cuisinart.
Possibilities, Tim. The other side is you might make it through perfectly well. Or with two heads.
However, in order to make it work, the concept would require vast amounts of power and a way of shrinking everything to a microscopic scale. But once we have a time machine, using it successfully will require a detailed understanding of time itself. The generally accepted view is that the universe is an unchanging block of space-time. This idea arises directly from Einstein's equations. What's important about the model is the idea that the past, present, and future are all equally real.
I was totally kidding about all of that.
So you can think of everything.
Einstein, you're such a prankster.
So you can think of everything that ever did exist, does exist, or will exist as all somehow being out there in space-time, says Dr. Christy Miller, director of the Center for Time at the University of Sydney, Australia. I bet you didn't know there was one of those.
I did not.
See?
Really?
The dinosaurs are all out there somewhere, Dave.
Well, right. It makes sense to me because if I lived in Australia, I'd be trying to find ways out of the era where everything is trying to kill me.
Oh, yeah. It makes sense, too. We're all here now, and all of the future is out there somewhere in space-time, too, is what Dr. Christy Miller said to confuse all of us. One way to visualize the block model is to think of other places in time as being like other places in space. We're here in Sydney. No, we're not. We're in Minneapolis. But there are other people located in Singapore and London. Those places are perfectly real. It's just that we aren't at them.
Are they really? Are they really real? I've never been there. I can't attest to the fact.
Whoa, dude.
Well, I've been to London, so I take that back. London does exist, at least when I'm there, Tim.
Yeah.
I don't know. When I leave, it may just all shut down.
That could be. It could be just set up for your amusement.
Well, I'd like to
think
so.
When you're there.
Yeah. But then, Singapore...
and then taken down like a McDonald's Playland when you leave.
Oh, wow. The inflatable Playland.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to the orange drink they used to have there? Remember, you could get those big coolers of it?
They took it away.
Sons of bitches.
They took it away.
Now we have a reason to time travel.
They just don't want us to have it, Dave.
I want to just take it back to an easier day, Tim, when we could get orange drink, bounce in the McDonald Land Playland, and eat McRibs, which apparently no longer exist in the state of Minnesota.
I think in order to do that, we have to bring Professor Mallett's dad back.
Right. Oh, do you think that's the whole connection?
I think that's
what kind of McMeat? What kind of McAnimal do you kill to get a McRib?
McKangaroo?
A McPig? I don't know.
Do you remember when the rumor was that all meat was kangaroo at
I'm okay with that.
McDonald's?
It's
You're fine with
delicious. Yeah.
that? Yeah.
Yeah.
You'd eat a kangaroo just to get the delicious taste of a Big Mac?
Yes. Especially if I could swab them in that barbecue sauce they use for McRibs.
Oh. What?
Crikey, get in my belly. You look delicious.
Do you really believe a McRib is a yoga mat?
No. Listen, they say like one part of the chemical principle of it is yoga mat. I can get past that as well, Tim. Besides, yoga's good for you.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Makes you flexible.
Where are we off to next?
Oh, let's see here. Bye, Professor Mallet. We'll see you in the future.
Maybe. If I could turn back time.
You're really trying to break that microphone, aren't you? Investigation into a Weeping Virgin Mary statue continues, Dave.
Really?
It does. The Catholic Diocese of Las Cruces continues to investigate a Virgin Mary sculpture in a Hobbs church that appears to be weeping. Weeping because you've been a bad boy and or girl, ladies and gentlemen, and the Virgin Mary can see you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Stop touching yourself, Tim. The Virgin Mary can see you.
I would think she'd be impressed, not crying.
Not the way you do it.
Well, the sculpture, which stands in Our Lady of Guadalupe Catholic Church, maybe I should change my technique, has been attracting attention worldwide since visitors first reported the fluid in May. It's no fluid. Bishop Oscar Cantu of the diocese said Friday a sample of the fluid collected from the sculpture was sent for chemical analysis, and it was determined that it was olive oil, Dave. That's right, the Virgin Mary cries olive oil. Not that olive oil. No, not
wrong
that.
Olive
No,
oil?
wrong
Okay.
olive oil. The Las Cruces Sun News has reported some of the witnesses claimed it smelled of roses, so something similar to the oil I bless and consecrate each year that we use for baptism and for confirmations and for ordination of the priest, Cantu said. The fact doesn't preclude the occurrence from being deemed a church miracle, but an investigation is underway to determine whether there was a natural cause behind the liquid found on the hollow bronze sculpture, Cantu said. The diocese also examined the interior of the statue and determined nothing irregular, according to Cantu. There's nothing on the interior that's not supposed to be there except for cobwebs, he said. So we took pictures and examined it. Cantu was reassigned last week to a diocese in California. His last day in the southern New Mexico diocese is September 28th, but he said one of the items remaining on his agenda before he leaves probably should be to clean that Virgin Mary statue, but it ain't, is to take a trip to Hobbs and see the sculpture himself. I think maybe he should bring a feather duster. Just saying.
So the Virgin Mary and Jesus are in the news this week.
Yeah.
Did you see the news about the Shroud of Turin?
I did, yeah. Should I go?
Why don't you hit that?
to,
It just seems kind of a natural progression. In
just
the
a natural
story,
progression to that. Okay, let's see. I got to move forward here. Let's see.
Are you moving forward in time?
Well, I am moving forward in time, but I'm trying to find the story that I was talking about. Let's see here. I'll have to go here. This is just a little do. Here we go. No, it doesn't want to open.
No, why would it?
Hold on. I'll get to open. You filthy story, you. There it is. All right. New analysis suggests that the Shroud of Turin is bogus.
What?
I don't believe it for a minute. Stains are inconsistent, Dave, and don't seem to come from a flat corpse. More of a dancing corpse.
Is that how it is?
Yeah, I think that's what it was. The Shroud of Turin is supposedly the burial cloth that was wrapped around Jesus after his crucifixion. Blood stains on the linen shroud, which are said to have been transferred to it during the 3 days that Jesus was in the tomb, form the image of a crucified man. But a new study reported in the Journal of Forensic Sciences found the bloodstained image was likely faked. You know, they believe there's a real one and a fake one.
Oh, really?
That there's actually two of them. Yeah. Researchers looking at the blood spatter found that the stains appeared to come from someone standing up rather than someone who was flat on the fabric. Science Alert reports, as the researcher put it, the stains are totally unrealistic when compared to what they should look like. The shroud, which is held in the...
Bullshit.
Oh, bless you. The shroud, which is held in the Cathedral of St. John the Baptist in Italy, is considered an icon as opposed to a genuine religious relic by the Vatican. Fox News notes the church has never weighed in on its authenticity. This is the kind of forensic work done all the time in police investigations. A forensic scientist who conducted the analysis tells BuzzFeed News even a crucified or hanging person should leave a distinct blood pattern on the cloth, which would be fascinating information to have. The study found inconsistent staining, with researchers concluding multiple poses were used to create the blood stains. A standing model was likely used to imprint patterns on the cloth at various angles for various body parts. Another blood stain...
I disagree completely.
You disagree completely?
Yeah. Look, you've seen the Shroud of Turin, the image.
Yeah.
You tell me that was made on somebody standing up. I don't believe that. Because it's the way the cloth lays, the way the face is, the indentations. If you're standing up, it's like a sheet. It's just going to drop. It's not going to touch the parts. And if you push it, you're going to get that weird smearing.
Yeah.
This guy's high.
Another blood stain pattern expert notes that more research could be done to see whether cleaning a body or preparing it for burial might account for the inconsistent staining, though he notes that the stains do appear to have come from flowing blood, meaning a heart that was beating at the time the stains were made.
Huh.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't buy it. I cry shenanigans.
You cry shenanigans.
Where are we out to next in the world of supernatural news?
At an Egyptian site last excavated in 1900, there's been a significant find. Archaeologists are hoping to find more about mummification process used 2,500 years ago. It's 2,500 years ago to you and me, Dave. It's only the beginning. I don't know why I sounded like that, Dave, but I just did. It's only the beginning, is how Egypt's antiquities minister on Saturday described a find made at a site near the country's famed pyramids at an ancient necropolis south of Cairo. The discovery, which includes a mummification workshop and a shaft used as a communal burial place, is located at the Saqqara necropolis of Memphis, the first capital of ancient Egypt, and where Graceland is, I believe.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
It's where Elvis was for a long time.
That's a different place in the world. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And home to the three renowned Giza pyramids, the latest find was made at a site that was excavated in 1900 and hails from I believe it's the Saite Persian period from 664 to 404 BC. Down the 100-foot deep shaft is a host of burial chambers carved into the bedrock lining into the sides of two hallways. There lie several mummies, wooden coffins, and sarcophagi, reports the AP. In the mummification workshop, an embalmer's cachette holding a large collection of pottery vessels, bowls, and measuring cups were found. Archaeologists believe the findings will reveal more about the oils used in the mummification process in the 26th dynasty. We are in front of a gold mine of information, said Ramadan Hussein, the head of the German-Egyptian mission, at a press conference. Archaeologists also find a gilded silver mask on the face of a mummy and a badly damaged wooden coffin. The mask, the first to be discovered since 1939, belongs to a priest. The finding of this mask could be called a sensation, Hussein said. Very few masks of precious metals have been preserved to the present day because the tombs of most ancient Egyptian dignitaries were looted in ancient times. There you go.
Well, that's kind of fascinating.
I wonder if this is the same site. I saw a story this past week about a site in Egypt that's just been discovered, and it's a black sarcophagus. And they're saying that they don't want to dig this thing up and they don't want to open it because they're afraid of a curse.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. Where are we going next, Tim?
We're still in Egypt, this time near Alexandria. Okay. So the story behind this mysterious black sarcophagus was this. They found this. They were on this dig. It had never been discovered before. There was this huge giant alabaster head they found. And near it was this nearly 9-foot giant black sarcophagus. And when they found this thing, the locals were saying, don't open it. There's a curse attached to it, or they think there's a curse attached to it. Well, they ended up opening it, Dave.
Da-da-da-da-da.
It's open, and there's no curse. Yeah.
That we know of.
Well.
What if it's a slow-acting curse?
Oh, that's true.
Like time-released.
It could be. Yeah. Time-released, like a Tylenol.
Yes.
Speculation and mystery have surrounded the strange black granite box since it was found in Alexandria earlier this month. Some have suggested that it should not be opened for fear that it could unleash a hideous curse. It was found next to a giant alabaster head that served only to deepen the mystery of what was inside. Now archaeologists have pried open the eldritch box to find it was filled with dirty water and 3 skeletons. This according to Egypt's Ministry of Antiquities. The water probably found its way into the box from a sewage trench. This according to the ministry. It may have caused the mummies to decompose and leave only their skeletons. The bodies are probably those of warriors. One of them appears to have a wound that is the result of being hit by an arrow. This according to a local expert.
Then maybe not warriors. Maybe they were the boy bands of their time, Tim.
Oh, that could have been.
Yeah, that's where they buried all of the Egyptian boy bands.
Right, and in sarcophagus.
Put your hands together for Imhotep.
Some had hoped that the tomb could contain the body of Alexander the Great, which would help solve one of antiquity's greatest mysteries, but there's nothing to suggest that any of the skeletons belonged to that famed warrior and empire builder. Alexander's body has never been found. He asked for his corpse to be thrown into the Euphrates River, but speculation has been rife ever since that his body was actually disposed of in a tomb and that it is still lying waiting to be found. Either way, it is incredibly rare to find an unopened sarcophagus in Alexandria. Anyone planning to build in the city must first have archaeologists inspect the site, and while they occasionally find sarcophagi that have usually been looted, the skeletons will now be removed from the site and sent to the National Museum of Alexandria. This according to the ministry. The sarcophagus will also be removed from the site once it is checked over and repaired.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Curses and mummies and tombs. Oh my, Tim. Where are we off to next?
Well, these bizarre instruments will play a symphony that only aliens can hear, Dave. It's probably good because these guys probably aren't very good at what they do. I'm just saying they're probably not great musicians. That's probably why it's only stuff that aliens can hear.
Wow.
I play a couple instruments too, Dave, but only Chupacabra can hear it. Just saying.
Okay.
In April, the music department at the University of North Carolina, Asheville, oh, here we go. If you remember, I kind of slammed Asheville a few months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm about to do it again. Hosted an end-of-the-year orchestral performance. While the stage was filled with instruments, not all of them could be heard by the human audience. That's not a good review, you know?
Are you sure? That sounds like a great review.
For experimental philosopher Jonathan Keats, who composed the performance in conjunction with UNCA music students and faculty, that inaudibility was the point. Or was it? The composition was just not designed for a human audience. It was intended to reach any life form in the universe that might have been listening. We can't assume that beings elsewhere in the universe are like us in any way whatsoever, including at the biological level of having sensory organs that are like ours, Keats says. His orchestra translates the fundamental principles of music and sound to a format that other beings in the universe could perhaps respond to. To Keats, this effort represents a long overdue revolution for the realms of arts and culture, something he has been pushing for in his work for years. Once the Copernicus proved that the Earth is not the center of the universe and one small player in a much larger solar system and network of galaxies, further discoveries abounded, Keats says. But the arts remain all about Earth and all about the idea of me. So I thought if the arts were able to undergo a Copernican revolution and abandon their geocentric way of thinking, they could tap into something really profound. Keats has long been preoccupied with decentering Earth and the human experience in the way we think about modern existence. In a previous project, Keats created a series of cosmic welcome mats designed to signal a universal message of welcome to extraterrestrial beings and humans alike. On the mats, and these, I guess, are literal mats.
Yeah, here's one that says, if this house is a rockin', don't bother knocking.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, that's pretty much universal everywhere then. On the mats, Keats used an amorphous red blob to represent life forms and showed the blob fitting into various backgrounds to represent how our planet could adjust to accommodate different beings. Boy, he is just purebred sunshine, isn't he?
Make him a big red blob. That'll be just like us, Tim.
Yep. I'm trying to send this message of welcome to extraterrestrial life forms. He's never been to the bayou, has he? Keats was careful to abandon human-centered iconography and messaging. He did not represent aliens as little green men, nor did he try to forge a connection with them by overloading them with information about human life, as did the Voyager Golden Record, the most notable previous attempt to make contact with extraterrestrials. Instead, Keats went with the fundamentals, how a being of any shape can fit into a space. It's kind of like Romper Room. With his orchestra, he pared the concept of music down to its most basic form in order to achieve a greater universality. If you think about what sound is, it's the modulation of amplitude and frequency over time, Keats says. That's what happens in Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, and that's what happens when Taylor Swift sings. Actually, it's not exactly what happens. But
quite a shot over the bow.
Yeah. The universal instruments collected under the name Intergalactic Omniponics. He and his students at UNCA created...
Sounds like a type of weed Snoop Dogg came up with.
It does, yeah. He and his students at UNCA created produce waves and disruptions as traditional instruments like violins do. They're just not the type of waves that humans can necessarily register. For instance, there's an ultrasonic organ, it's the name of my new album, which Keats created by organizing a collection of dog whistles procured from eBay, along with a hollow wind chest. And as the musician pumps air through the chest via a set of bellows, the whistles emit sounds at a much higher frequency than humans can hear. He also developed, and that must have been a really awesome concert, just to sit there and hear nothing. He also developed a pair of bells that utilizes gamma rays, which reach frequencies far beyond the human sensory range. One bell uses a uranium marble, and the other a radium watch dial. Both are covered with a lead bell, and the performer can raise the bell to varying degrees to emit different levels of radiation. And lastly, Keats devised a cello-like instrument that creates gravitational waves via the swinging of a metal ball bearing. All of the instruments will be on display at the Modernism Gallery in San Francisco beginning July 24th, and the visitors will be able to experience what it's like to play music from someone other than themselves or the other visible beings in the room. While visitors to the showroom won't receive the full orchestral experience of the initial performance in Asheville, they will be able to perhaps come away with an idea of how to play an instrument they can't hear and why it's important to do so.
I don't know. That seems like a big get. That's a big sell point. How do you get me to buy into, we're going to create music nobody can hear, but it's still important, Tim. I've been making music people don't want to hear for years in my car.
Yeah.
I just windows up singing at the top of my lungs.
To me, that's, would you say, how long would you sit in that audience? And you're like, okay, we're going to make music for you now that you won't be able to hear, but the aliens will. If you paid like...
This is like the Emperor's New Clothes, right? Mm-hmm. How dumb are people?
Yeah. How long do you sit in that audience?
I don't know. Is there hot chicks near me?
Okay, we'll give you like 2. There's 2 hot chicks near you.
Maybe half an hour.
A half hour?
Yeah. Are we making eye contact?
No, the chicks are really into it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Am I wearing MeUndies?
Yeah.
I'll stay there all night then. I don't care. As long as I'm comfortable, Tim.
Okay. All right then. I'm interested in the process for about 10 minutes. That's about how long you got me.
Okay.
And then at that point, if I don't hear a sound, I start booing.
Do you?
Yeah. You get the Bronx cheer out of me.
Just like it's, okay, we're going to begin our next song for the aliens. Please enjoy. Boo.
That's exactly what it is. You suck!
No, you just got to boo. Just one solo. Boo from the audience.
Boo.
Yeah. I don't get it. I don't get it. I can't lie about getting it because I don't get
Eddie
it.
Van Halen did it better.
Wow. Yeah. All right. Next, please.
This about a young couple. This person said, I was going to die. She brought me back. A girlfriend saves the life of a teen struck by lightning. Everybody has their fears, Dave, going out in the out of doors.
Yes.
That something could happen to them. You ever been afraid of being hit by lightning?
Have I ever been afraid of being hit by lightning? Yes, and I actually was nearly struck by lightning.
I actually met somebody, I think it was 2 weeks ago, that got hit by lightning.
Really?
And I had to talk to this person in depth about what was it like. And they said, scariest thing that's ever happened to them.
Really?
Yeah.
I got knocked to my ass, and it struck up the road from me. I was running to my buddy Phil Spizzeri's house, and it was raining out that night. And there was a construction site, so they had kind of framing up and metal piping and all that stuff. and I'm chucking up the road, and lightning bolt hit. And I'm telling you, I was maybe a good house or two away, and it came down and hit and sparked, and that electricity traveled right through the water.
Whoa.
I was in sneakers, too, and it knocked me on my ass. So I don't know about the whole grounding. Maybe that wasn't real rubber on the bottom of my shoes, but man, boom, it knocked me down.
I was driving home one night, and you know where the intersection is. I was on 252 and right around 85th Avenue there. But as I was driving home, I stopped at the intersection, and it's just about as you're about to get off to go to 610, and a lightning bolt hit about a quarter mile up the road and made a tree explode in front of me. And I've never seen anything so scary in my life. And I thought I was close to that. I mean, a quarter mile away. But I can't imagine being hit. But when I was talking to this person, they talked about how they could smell their flesh searing when they got hit by this lightning bolt. And I thought that had to be the absolute most terrifying thing, to not only feel that pain and smell that, but think that I'm actually going to live through this.
Yeah.
It's just like,
it wouldn't be so bad if I knew, this is it, crack, and then you're just done, but it's the crack. Bacon. Bacon.
Oh.
I smell delicious.
I smell tasty. A young couple's weekend camping trip took the turn for the worse when Juliette Moore exited their tent to find her boyfriend face down on the grass without a pulse. Juliette and her 18-year-old boyfriend, Isaiah Cormier, had been camping near Denver, Colorado when a lightning storm rolled into the area. Isaiah had been standing next to the tent, when the authorities believed that a bolt of lightning jumped from a nearby tree into his neck. Ow.
Yikes.
Upon seeing the flash of light from inside the tent, Juliette walked out of the tent and saw Isaiah on the ground. As fate would have it, she had taken a CPR class 1 month before the camping trip, and she immediately began chest compressions. After one round of resuscitation, her boyfriend started gasping for air, only to stop breathing once more. After the second round, he finally regained consciousness. Luckily, his girlfriend was right there, moved into swift action, started resuscitation efforts, and began CPR, as Sergeant David Salomon of the Boulder County Sheriff's Office told WMUR. It's very important that resuscitation efforts were started right away. The couple rushed to meet paramedics near the campsite so Isaiah could be taken to a hospital in Boulder County. Despite now having a scar on his neck from the incident, his family is stunned by his miraculous recovery, and they credit Juliette with his survival. I was going to die. She brought me back. I was going to die again, and she brought me back, Isaiah told WPIV.
Wow.
Something. That's the end of the story, but that's just amazing.
That's remarkable.
Yeah.
Well done. Way to jump in there and bring your boy back not once but twice.
And think of how young they are, just to have that presence of mind at that age, just to say, I'm just going to save him. Just going to get in there and do it.
Make it happen.
It's amazing.
All right.
A ghost rides a tricycle backwards in eerie footage from a haunted poorhouse, Dave. The eerie footage shows the moment a tricycle like the one in Saw appears to pedal backwards on its own in a supposedly haunted abandoned poorhouse. 40-year-old Lee Kirkland, paranormal investigator. He sounds familiar.
Yeah, we know the Kirklands.
I think I know that guy. Caught the creepy blink and you'll miss it backpedal on video during a late-night tour of an insanely haunted house. The red tricycle, reminiscent of the one the creepy puppet rides in the Saw franchise, can be clearly seen moving backwards momentarily when illuminating by the torch. I think that's a flashlight. The pedals appeared to be pushed by phantom feet as the front wheel turned and pushed backwards across the concrete floor at Ashmore Estates in Illinois. The abandoned building was once a poorhouse before it was turned into a mental asylum, and Lee believes the haunted tricycle is a trigger item for the ghosts that still reside there. Lee from Kentucky said, I was making a joke to Nick Groff, the paranormal investigator, and I was saying that he was going to get on the tricycle and ride it around. Then I pointed the camera down at the tricycle, and it moved on its own. It was a pretty creepy piece of video for sure. Ashmore Estates is a very old poorhouse, which is what it originated as. There were community homes where people lived during the hard times and depression, and then it was turned into a mental asylum. There's a lot of alleged spirits there in that area, and one of them is supposed to be a little girl who was attracted to these objects. The tricycle is something that has been reported before on the estate, and that's why they put these trigger objects in there specifically to this area of the estate. They had different objects moving in there. I think they had a small ball and a kid's doll and a tricycle, stuff like that. A lot of people didn't see it at the time. I reviewed it and showed it to people at the end of the night, and they were all pumped up. They all wanted to get back to the room and try to make it happen again. We made sure afterwards that it didn't move on a slope, that it was hard concrete, but there was nothing that could have made it move. It totally did move on its own. Nobody had touched it. You can see on the video the closest person to it is Nick, and he's a couple of feet away from it. Lee, who has spent around 17 years as a professional paranormal investigator, claims he has had many encounters with the supernatural, including a hunchback, a ghost that threw a rock at his head, and a phantom dinner guest that disappeared in front of his eyes. But he claims that Ashmore Estates is his favorite location because it is the most haunted. Lee said all throughout the night there is tons of stuff. One thing we do is we try to find a skeptic, somebody who doesn't believe in the stuff, and we want them to have an experience. So that night, this one woman had never had an experience, and something grabbed her shoulder and left a mark. She got a little shaken up after that happened to her. Then another investigation on the same floor, I saw a shadow figure come out of the hallway. This place is insanely haunted. I've been all over the country in some of the most haunted locations, and this is by far one of the most haunted that I've ever spent time in. It's about the third or fourth time that I've been here. I've been doing this for a long time, but I've run events and find these locations and bring fans in to meet some of the paranormal celebrities of the area. We like to be in lots of different places, but Ashmore is definitely the favorite because it is so haunted. It's insanely haunted. It's pretty wild. It's lots of different ghosts. There are multiple spirits in this place for sure. It excites me when paranormal activity happens in front of me. When I first started, it was scary a little bit, but now at this point in my life and my career, it excites me. It gives me a shiver down my spine. It's like right before the game starts or right before a show starts. Whatever you do that gives you little butterflies and excites you a bit. That's the feeling that you get when something happens. You can go a couple of hours and have nothing happen at all, and then something happens like this, and then you capture it on video, and it's even more exciting because you can go and show other people, and they can relive that through you as well as by watching the videos. So there you go.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we wish them luck. And, Ashmore Estates, I have a tie to that. My cousin owned that for many years.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. All right. How many more stories do we have?
Looks like we've got 2 more.
All right. Where are we off to next?
Well, if you've got a ghost in your home, the value will drop, Dave.
What?
That's just all there is to it.
Huh.
Yeah, having a haunted home isn't necessarily a good thing.
Depends on who you talk to. I'm sure there are some people that would more than willingly buy a haunted house.
Well, maybe. Terrifying twilight visits from ghosts are apparently not the only downside to living in a haunted house. Not only do haunted homeowners have to put up with the paranormal, but their property plummets in value if they are investigated, a researcher has claimed. A study into supposedly haunted homes in Britain found their value drop by 17% compared to similar homes nearby. Statistician Dr. Jeff Ellis said it suggested that having a haunted house knocks almost £40,000 off the average UK property price when it came to selling it. It may well be that there are a lot of houses affected too. A separate survey of 2,000 Brits found that 1 in 4 believe their home is haunted. And it revealed that you can't be too careful because 78% of those people said they would lie to a real estate agent to get more cash for their home. Some 55% admitted that they would be put off buying a house if it was haunted. The study was commissioned by TV channel Really to mark the new series of Help My House is Haunted. It revealed that 49% of people have witnessed some form of paranormal activity, with a ghost the most common response. Others claim to have heard unexplained noises and whispers. Barry Guy, a paranormal investigator on Help My House is Haunted, said, an avid ghost hunter and paranormal enthusiast, I've seen the damage of having a paranormal inhabitant can do to your house value. It has even been known to make some houses unsellable. Help My House is Haunted airs weekly on Fridays at 10 p.m. over in the UK.
Yeah, our buddy Chris Fleming is part of that show.
Oh, there you go.
That's his brand new program.
Oh.
Yeah, Chris has been a part of our show since the inception back in 2006, and we wish him and his crew well. I wonder if they're going to make that show available here in the United States soon.
No idea.
Well, and I do want to make a quick mention, Tim, so I just don't feel like we've been dangling people.
Sure.
We did mention that we have some other things in the works that are going on. And I'm hoping to be able to start to make some announcements here in the next month or so to kind of let people know what's been going on and how things are going, and just some cool side projects and things that we're involved in. So that's it.
Cool.
All right. Where are we off to next?
Well, Dave, Australian Ghostbusters claim a paranormal force threw stones at them while they investigated spectral goings-on in an attic. A team of Australian ghost hunters claim they had stones thrown at them out of nowhere while they were investigating spectral goings-on at a historic site. Paranormal investigators from Haunted Down Under, a group that hunts ghosts while they are alive online, were at the historic river mill at Mount Nathan, Queensland, when they say stones were thrown at them in an attic. The group suspects the paranormal activity could be linked to a death that happened at the site not too long ago. Haunted Down Under was investigating the river mill one night in June when they heard unusual banging sounds. The team used an SLS camera to create a map of any paranormal bodies that may be present in the room with them. The group then moved to the attic where they said the environment changed and the room felt a little thicker. It was up in the attic where we started another session and we had a stone thrown at one of our devices on the floor, said Briar Ford. The paranormal experts believe Rivermill's large collection of antique objects from different places could have a spirit attached to them. We have encountered cases where spirits are attached to people and move around that way, said team member Dean Gray. The team has heard phrases like leave, go, and he is coming for you, and say they have seen a black mass during their previous encounters at Mount Kutha, I believe it is. Haunted Down Under is known to film their investigations and stream them live on Facebook. Their next adventure will be a night stay at Beechworth Jail in Melbourne, which was the last jail where Australia's most famous bushranger, Ned Kelly, was kept before he was executed.
Bushranger, that sounds like a porn title.
It kind of does, doesn't it?
I'm Bill Curtis. Welcome to Bushranger.
I mean, you said it. I didn't.
Yeah.
Just saying.
All right. That's it for Supernatural News.
That'll do it.
Well, why don't we take a quick break? We'll come back, and it's time for your stories in Parashare right here on Beyond the Darkness.
Beyond the Darkness.
All right, we're back. This is the best in paranormal talk radio. I'm Dave, that's Tim, and it's time for a little Parashare, Tim.
Oh, yes.
Let me start off with this, right? We opened up a phone line now. It's our Beyond voicemail, right? Beyond the Darkness voicemail. It's 6. I don't know why I'm saying Beyond. I'm suddenly Shatnering out on this, Tim. You can call the Beyond the Darkness voicemail, 651-300-4977. If you have a story to share, your own supernatural experience, we'd love to hear from you. How do you go about doing that? Call me, 651-300-4977. 651-300-4977. Keep your story to under 3 minutes, and we'll be able to play it on upcoming episodes of the show. And why don't we start off the segment with that right now? We've got a couple of stories to share.
Sure.
All right, let's go. Here you go. Here's your time to shine. Parashare, 2 callers.
Hi, Dave and Tim. You guys are the best. Love being entertained by you and listening to your shows. I'm calling you from Toronto, Canada. I'm just going to use my middle name, which is Anna. And just wanted to tell you that when I was young, still standing in my crib, there were these, I think they were shadow people. They were sort of the shape of a gingerbread man, but they were adult sizes, and they were gray, and you could see through them. They were quite transparent. They were standing, all those adult sizes were standing around my crib, and there was only one that was about my size. It was a lot shorter. I remember this like yesterday. I screamed and punched the smaller one, and when I screamed, they disappeared, and my mother woke up because she was in the room with my sister, and of course, I don't think they saw anything because I questioned my sister later on, and she said she did not see anything. My second experience, and I'm not sure if this was ever aired or talked about on your show because I must have missed that show, but I was married. I was at my sister's cottage with my husband and my first child. She was about 18 months standing in a in a small crib. I mean, she was sleeping, in a small crib. And this was in my sister's cottage in a very small room. And I remember waking up because was this illuminated figure, sort of the shape of the outline of the Virgin Mary, and it was bright, 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 illuminating the room. Of course, I was frozen and worried for my daughter because the crib was right at the foot of the bed, and there was no other room except to go through this figure to get to my daughter. I thought I was hallucinating. Of course, I tried to wake up my husband, but that didn't work. Put my head under the covers thinking I was hallucinating, peeked again, and it was still there. It exuded a very malevolent vibe, and I was scared out of my mind. I was so frozen, I don't think I could have gotten up to get to my daughter because I was just frozen in fear.
Hey, what's going on, Dave and Tim? First off, I want to say that I'm a big fan, and I've been a listener of Darkness Radio and Beyond the Darkness podcast since 2015. And I also want to mention that I'm healing every day from, depression and other, mental health issues. And it's really inspiring to hear you guys talk about it. And I also appreciate Mr. Schrader being so open about his struggles with depression and other dark times in his life. I want to point out that back when we lost Chester Bennington, you really poured your heart out, and what you said will stick with me forever. So, I want to get to the meat and potatoes of this message. Last year, a few days after Halloween, my girlfriend and I thought it would be a good idea to visit Salem, Massachusetts, where all those innocent victims were killed during the witch trials. And we went on one of those spooky little ghost tours that they give, and it was a little bit after 9 or 10 p.m. We visited many places because everything is pretty much in walking distance of each other. But two places in particular really stood out in these photos that were captured. I took the liberty of tweeting it to you guys on Twitter about 6 days ago. Two pictures are from the Pingree Murder House, and the other pictures were taken at Turner's Seafood Restaurant, and I think it's pronounced Lyceum Hall or Lyceum Hall. But during the ghost tour, this guy next to my girlfriend and I took a picture of Turner's Seafood Restaurant across the street from where we were standing. And then he blurted out, "Oh my God, I got something." And what he caught appears to be the ghostly spirit of a woman. Now, when he took that picture, the only thing visible was a couple having dinner, which you were able to see through the restaurant window. I swear to God. But, when we looked at the pictures, I tell you, man, I couldn't believe it. We couldn't believe it. And I asked him to send it to me because I thought it was really amazing. The other two pictures were at the Pingree Murder House that my girlfriend took. And I really want you to look at those photos, and I want you to tell me what you guys see. I hope you guys get the message, and much love and respect to you guys, and I hope you keep doing your thing. And thanks again for listening. All right. Bye-bye.
And it's just that simple. All you need to do is call in 651-300-4977, and you can share your stories just like those two callers did. All right, Tim, here's an email. Hello there, Dave and Tim. My name is Winter, and I have an experience to share with you guys. When I was about 16, I lived in Southern California's Mojave Desert, Tim. Is that how you say it? Mojave?
Yes, it's the Mojave, like Mojangles.
Yeah, the California's Mojave Desert. Though, I know it's Mojave. Dear Dave, why don't you learn to speak the English language even when it looks like a foreign word? It's probably not, so just learn to speak. Your number one fan, Rebecca. I'm just throwing out the emails like that, people. Those are the kind of stuff we get. We get scolded constantly.
Is it just coming to yours?
You don't get those angry emails?
I don't get the scolding ones. No.
Oh, I always get. Well, yes, you do. That's not how you pronounce Edinburgh.
Well, I get those on occasion.
That's my point. Is I always get that when I take a shot at, if it's the Mojave Desert, it's Mojave, you moron. I get those kind of emails all the time. Not that I'm complaining. I just love hearing from people. Sometimes I screw up words on purpose. So I do that people write into me and they're like, "Hey, you're a dick and don't know how to speak, but I love your show." Then I just kind of get that little warm inside hug. Anyway, when I was about 16 years old, not me, Tim, but our listener who's writing in winter,
yes. Okay.
I lived in Southern California's Mojave Desert. Though wherever my family moves, weird things seem to follow. Or maybe we're just weird. This house in particular is the source of the biggest scars my family has. I won't get into that, but I will say that this is the only place I've ever lived where I've been scared stiff from something I couldn't see, but I knew was there. There were times when my room would turn pitch black, which is hard to do with our neighbor's floodlight, and I could sense something there. I had no clue who or what could have been there. All I know is that it scared me, and even the thought of running away never crossed my mind. I was so panicked. The only thing I could think of was what was going to show itself to me, though nothing ever did show itself. Aside from that, there were times where I would have friends over for sleepovers and weird stuff would happen at night. For instance, we would turn off the light and watch the shadows on my walls and ceiling move around like they were liquid or smoke. I kind of got a kick out of freaking people out with that. It happened to me so many times that it became just like anything else we ignore in our lives. Now, there is one thing that happened to me that sticks probably with me the strongest. One night I was relaxing after a workout by listening to some Kiss. That's a good way to relax after a workout, Tim.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they were broadcasting the Psycho Circus show live on the radio. I had a candle going just to keep a soft light in the room, which was important to me ever since the whole scariness and pitch black thing started happening. I don't usually light candles, but my mother and sister were into some candle phase, so everyone in the house had at least a few. I closed my eyes to imagine what the concert would be like, and after a few moments, I opened my eyes, and the room had changed. The walls, just the walls, were now black, which before were white. It wasn't like it was just black. It was like liquid moving black, similar to how the shadows moved, but there was full-on black. It almost looked like there was a current or something moving around in it. I could think that all I could think to do, rather, was to just get up, back up slowly to where the light switch was, keep my head forward as I reached back to turn on the light, as I didn't want to see my hand go into the whatever it was. Once the light was on, the room was back to normal. I think I slept in the living room that night. I've had some people tell me that this was probably a misinterpreted dream, since I did have my eyes closed before it happened. After working out, it's not like I can rule that out, but my argument would be that it was only 9 o'clock at night, and I had a habit of sleeping at about 1 a.m. There are a lot of things I don't know, but what I do know is that what happened felt very real to me. I can tell you this much: I don't listen to Kiss at night in the dark or softly lit room anymore. Of course, there are other weird experiences, but I think that's enough for now. I love your show, guys, and I love what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing, and that comes from Winter. Thank you, Winter. Mm-hmm. Oh, Winter loves us, Tim. Hey, Dave and Tim. Absolutely loving your new home on Podcast One, and I can only apologize for my horrendous typing in my other emails and Parashares, which you've read out. The non-car crash traveling home story, my next story, happens at least 6 years prior to that previous story I sent you. Myself and Minnie the dog were spending the day walking and climbing Arthur's Seat in Edinburgh. I knew that was going to come at me again, just as we get done saying it. Edinburgh. In the summer of 2011, I'm fairly familiar with the hill and had decided to explore a couple of lesser-known routes to climb to avoid the throngs of tourists and enjoy a bit of peace and quiet for myself and Minnie the dog. One particular route started with steps cut into the turf of the hill and became more of a scramble as we ascended. Eventually, we came to a passage that was a bit more like Minnie the dog could manage, so with a sure foot, I scooped up Minnie the dog and addressed the task at hand. At a small vertical section where I had to lift the dog upward and forward to get her to the next scramble, I felt my balance shift. I was standing on small but solid ledge, around 12 feet off the ground, with a 35-pound dog in my arms, and felt myself slowly falling backwards. I realized what was happening, quickly thought, "Aw, shit." I prepared myself for a fall and then felt a pressure against my upper back. What I felt could best be described as a helping hand, pressed squarely in my upper back, catching my fall until I regained my balance and was able to place Minnie the dog on the next section of the scramble. I think I let out a quick puff of air and said cheers to nobody, but continued on. I am a spiritual person, but not religious, and believe that something had an eye on me that day. But who, what, or why, I'll never know. If you share this, please. Thank you very much for your time. I love your show, lads. And if I can, I'll hook up with you when you make it over here. And that comes from Cameron. Thank you, Cameron.
Yeah, thank you, Cameron.
That's very nice to hear from Cameron.
Yeah.
I love that we have this kind of connection. Do I hear the ice cream man?
That is the ice cream man.
I'm going to push this microphone to the floor and run outside and get me a Mickey Mouse ice cream cone.
There's an ice cream man.
Ice cream man. Hi, guys. Really love the show. Been listening to you for a few years now. My name is Steve Manschenden from the Netherlands. A few years ago, I was sitting between two houses. I had sold my first home and bought another house. The new house needs a lot of construction and renovation, so my friend offered for me to live with him for a month or two. Very happy that I did not have to sleep in the dust and can take a shower in the evening, I said yes. Quickly, I put a few things in his home, a bed and my laptop and some audio studio gear. So 3 days later, we went to work in the house. My girlfriend, let me try that again, Tim. So 3 days later, we went to work in the house. With my girlfriend, it went well, but as you know, there's always something wrong when you're doing construction. There was some delivery problems, so work was at a standstill for another 2 days. My friend and I, my friend where I was living for almost a month, now have the same hobby. We produce music, and now I have 2 days to do that. But first, I slept for 13 hours. I think it might have been the best sleep of my life. I think he's just bragging to us now.
Yeah.
I always work at night when I make music. I love the vibe of the night. It's quiet and no one bothers you. At least, that's what I thought. Everyone was asleep in the house. I sat with my back to the hallway where my dog was sleeping. He's a bulldog, and he's a lazy dog. I've never seen him run. But that night, he shot past me into the kitchen. I chuckled and said, "Hey, where are you going, boy?" But when I looked from where he came from, I got the shock of my life. I nearly fell off my chair. I kicked my laptop from my desk, and my headphones flew across the room. At the door was a solid black shadow looking at me. I stood up from my chair and walked backwards into the kitchen, where I pressed the light on. But it was still there. Not losing sight of him, I say him because it was a figure of a man. My dog was in a panic and was still in the kitchen. I wanted to leave, but could not move. If I wanted to go upstairs, I would have to pass that thing. And then, bang, on the wall next to me. What I did next, I have to regret today. My mind was made up. I grabbed my dog. I take 3 steps forward, closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and walked to the door. That moment, I felt the cold air, and it went right through me. I felt it. It chilled me to the bone. I ran upstairs, kicked the bedroom door open where my girlfriend was sleeping. She jumped up and asked what was going on. I told her the story and said, "We have to leave here." Needless to say, the next day, we quickly made a room in the new house where we could sleep. Thanked my buddy for letting us stay there, but it was time to go. He asked me why, and I told him. He looked at me and startled to hear the story. He had once fallen asleep on his couch. When he opened his eyes, he saw this black shadow figure standing before him. When he closed his eyes and opened it again, the figure was gone. He told me he thought it was just a dream, but in the weeks that followed, I felt that thing. It was dark and easily angered. It's not how I am. Not much later, my friend became a drug addict. You always wondered, was it that thing that got into him? Thanks for your show, guys. Greetings from the Netherlands. Thank you very much for writing to us from the Netherlands. Boy, I feel all fancy. By reading his story, was I speaking Netherlandian?
Dutch, yeah.
What?
Dutch.
No, I'm Dave.
No,
I was wondering if I was speaking Netherlandian.
No, Dutch.
No, Dave. My name is Dave.
No, I know your name is Dave, but you were speaking Dutch.
I was speaking Dutch?
Well, I mean, you were,
Was I?
Well,
Do I have like a universal translator? No, I thought I was just speaking Netherlandian.
Netherlandian's not Dutch is what they speak in the Netherlands.
Who?
People in the Netherlands, they speak Dutch.
Well, what do the people in Dutch speak?
Old.
Netherlands. What do you speak in Denmark?
Dutch.
Danish? Is it Dutch? Danish?
I don't know.
The world fascinates and frightens me all at the same time.
I don't know. English?
Here's my story.
Don't they all speak English?
The next story begins. Here's my story. In the summer of 1995 to 96, I can't remember exactly. Oh, sorry.
Jeez.
Narrow it down, at least. I guess gave us 2 years. I was working 3 to 11 p.m. in Columbus, Ohio. I lived in a small town to the west of Columbus. There were 2 ways home, the freeway, Interstate 70, and the backcountry roads. Because it was a warm, calm, cloudless night with a full moon, I decided to take the back roads. Over the few days prior to this night, I'd been noticing 3 lights in the sky to the west of Columbus. This night was no different. This night, I took the back roads home. I paid special attention to the lights this night. This is what I saw on the way home. If you could just imagine looking out your car's windshield, one light would travel left to right across the horizon, then turn back toward where it came from. It would disappear, then reappear back where it started, then repeat the cycle. Light number 2 would travel up and down on the left side of your field of view. Light number 3 would travel down the right side of your right field of view. But on the way up, it would appear bigger. Every up and down cycle, it would get bigger and bigger. I assumed this meant it was coming closer to me with each cycle. Because of this, I wanted to try to grab its attention, so every time I turned toward the lights while driving home, I would flash my brights at them. Oh, that's good. Piss them off.
Yeah.
Blind the aliens.
Sure.
After about 20 to 25 minutes, I noticed light 3 was indeed coming closer. Being in the country, I was able to find a place to pull over. I turned my car towards the lights, clicked on my brights, left the car running and the radio on. I wanted to see if my car would turn off my radio or would be, as it's been reported by UFOs in the past, and I got out and watched. I watched this light number 3 come closer, but this time it didn't repeat the up and down cycle, but flew right toward me and eventually over me. Now, because it was in the sky and no trees were close, I wasn't able to judge the size, but I certainly saw its shape. Imagine the typical teardrop shape, but elongated, laying on its side. The round part of the teardrop was the front of the object. The white tail section was the point of the teardrop. There didn't seem to be any typical tail that you would see on an airplane. It just came to a point. Each side had what appeared to be wings angled back at about 45 degrees. Along the front of each of these wings were pale yellow lights, which reminded me of portals. And at the tip of each wing and the front of each object were slightly stronger yellow lights, each shining down to the ground like searchlights, though the lights never actually reached the ground. Maybe about halfway down to the ground, I guess. It was about midnight, but the full moon was bright. That said, I could only see the craft was dark in color, black or dark gray or maybe even dark blue, but it did seem to have a texture of sorts. It reminded me of the texture you see in a soundproof room. The craft itself floated over my car without any noise. My car and radio continued to run without interruption. I watched this thing glide over my car so much that I actually turned my back to the other 2 lights. I watched this thing float over my car without noise. To look at it, what the other lights were doing, they were continuing flying the same patterns that they had been doing all night. I turned around to see what the main object was doing, and now it was gone. Nowhere to be seen. Remember, there were no clouds, no wind, and the full moon was bright enough to cast shadows. So in the 2 to 3 seconds it took me to turn to look at those lights, number 1 and 2, then turn around without any sound, the object was gone. Nowhere to be seen. After a few more seconds of bewilderment, I got back into the car and drove home. I never saw light number 3 again on the 15 more minutes it took me to drive home, but lights number 1 and 2 continued their pattern. The next night, all 3 lights were visible, doing the same pattern, but I wasn't able to grab their attention like I did the night before. That was the last time that I saw those lights. They never reappeared in the night sky. I asked coworkers if they had noticed them, and most everyone had. What I found interesting is that these lights were coming from the west of Columbus, the largest major city west of Columbus is Dayton, where Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is located. Maybe it's a coincidence these strange lights in the sky were flying in the direction of Wright-Patterson, or maybe they were there for a reason. I can say when I was younger, my family was walking into a mall in Springfield one evening after dark. Springfield is a very small city close to Dayton, when 3 jets flew over us. When I looked up, I saw 2 jets flanking a black triangle, flying towards Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. I learned several years later that black triangle I saw was a stealth fighter. So I saw the stealth fighter before it became official to the American public. That's kind of cool. So, what was this strange craft that flew over my car? I have no idea. I can only say that what I saw, and it was nothing more. All right, very cool. Thanks for sharing that story. Speaking of sharing stories, we do have our open phone lines now, Tim. Mm-hmm. You can call in and leave a voicemail paranormal encounter for us. Keep it to about 3 minutes. Be succinct. Or if you just want to call and tell Tim how handsome he is or how much you love my silly voices, you can leave us voicemails about that as well. As a matter of fact, I think we have one kind of fun little voicemail. We'll go ahead and play that, and then we've got 2 stories to share. We'll do that next, right here on Beyond the Darkness.
Hi, Tim and Dave. This is Ku. I am from St. Paul, Minnesota as well. So this happened to me when I was in my late teens. My sister owns this duplex here in St. Paul, Minnesota. Before we purchased it, though, my cousin, who was really into the paranormal, took many pictures just to see if the house has any ghostly presence. Anyways, she did end up taking lots of pictures with many orbs. She did warn us about the house, but we disregarded her warnings, only thinking that the orbs were just dust. We were wrong. The duplex was highly haunted, and there was something ungodly there. Anyways, there was an incident where I had a huge argument with my sister and ran upstairs to the empty top portion of the duplex. I hid in the open doorless closet and was just full of anger. And then I recall just hearing voices to end my life and to run away and just all these negativity. Anyways, I stayed up there for about 30 minutes and came to a conclusion that I need to man up and go downstairs to apologize to my sister. As I was on my way downstairs, I stopped halfway because at that split second, there were a lot of house lights flying all around me. It was crazy. Almost like the Amityville horror scene with that priest towards the beginning of the movie. There were at least hundreds of them just flying around me. And then I started hearing someone running down the stairs at me at full speed right behind me. I froze in terror, not knowing what to do. Then all of a sudden, in that split second as well, something pushed me from my back as I flew right into the door as it flung open wide by itself, leading me to my sister's presence. I don't know who pushed me, but all I know for a fact is that something saved me from that thing running after me. As we made up and apologized, I told my sister the incident that happened to me. She had this confused look and asked me why I disregarded her presence when she went up to talk to me in the closet. I was speechless because for the whole time I was upstairs, I never saw my sister nor hear her coming up to grab me. She got more confused, and with an assured face, she did mention that I looked pale. And when she saw me, she said my eyes never blinked the whole time she was there. I don't know what she saw or what happened.
Hey, Darkness Dave and Tim. This is Donovan from Colorado. And I was going to tell a paranormal story, but I would just like to say that I want to put my peanut butter in your peanut butter. And Tim, I want your chocolate in my chocolate. Also, keep doing what you're doing. And I'm being laughed at by my family. But you should definitely put this on air because we're cool people and we listen to your podcast all the time. So thank you. Bye.
Well, the calls are getting fun. I like having that aspect of the show now.
Oh, yeah.
1-651-300-4977 is the number if you want to call and leave messages for us. Again, 651-300-4977. You can share some love. You can share your paranormal experiences. And if you knew a murderer, go ahead and leave those stories on there as well. We may use those on an upcoming True Crime Tuesday story. All right, let's get back. We've got a couple more emails to cover here. Tim, are you ready for the next one?
Ready.
How's it going, Tim and Dave? Great show, and I have a story to tell. My name is Eric, and I'm a Native American Sioux, to be exact. I am very involved in my culture and beliefs. One night, while I was getting ready to smudge and clean a house of a deceased older man, he was believed to be a witch by many. When I walked into his house, I could just feel his anger. After walking around the house, I found a locked door. Every inch said to me, "Don't go in there." But it was my duty to smudge every room. Once inside, I was able to smell rot, and I saw dried animal skin and human hair wrapped up in cloth, along with a lot more red flags of witchcraft. I left immediately, scared. On the way out of the house, it was vibrating. The air seemed almost heavy. When I was about to open the door, the biggest shadow I ever saw stopped in front of it. I walked through it and felt nothing but static in my body. We burnt that house and swore that we heard something laughing. Sorry for this being too long. It's just one story, testing the waters. If you guys like and would like me to send more, just let me know. Of course, Eric, feel free to share those stories. Why do people feel they need the permission to send us more stories?
Yeah, just send it along.
Have we not been begging like animals for long enough?
Well, yeah.
All right. Our next email begins. I used to work as a sheriff's deputy at Humphreys County Sheriff's Department in Waverly, Tennessee. Country singer Loretta Lynn has a ranch in Humphreys County. It has been said that the old plantation house is haunted, and being interested in the supernatural, I would patrol out there every night in hopes to catch something. Early one November morning, my partner and myself were patrolling the ranch and stopped to look at the old plantation house. While we were looking at the house, we noticed that there were lights going off and on in and around the western town, an old western town looking area with a boardwalk and shops. My partner James was married to one of Loretta Lynn's granddaughters and knew the shops all western town and knew that there should be no flashing lights in that area. When we got to western town and got out of our car, James walked over to one of the shops, and I stayed back in the vehicle to direct him toward any lights or motion. As soon as James stepped into the boardwalk, I heard the sound of someone walking on the gravel. I listened for the direction of the sound, and then soon saw a figure come out of and between one of the shops and the concession stands. The figure was a little old man, and being November, it was cold. I fully expected the figure to disappear, but he started talking instead and walking towards me. He told me his name and that he was from Michigan, and Doolittle Lynn, Mooney, Loretta's deceased husband, had come to him in a dream and told him to come see Loretta, and she would make him a big country star. I spoke to the man for a minute and finally realized that he was real, and I took him to the emergency room to get checked out. Before we went home that morning, I went to the ER to check on the man, and he told me to tell the guy that hollered for us to come over to him, thank you. At that point, James and I decided that ghosts at Loretta Lynn's Dude Ranch must have saved this man's life, and that comes from Joe Duncan. Well, that's a pretty cool story.
Yeah, it is.
Loretta Lynn. She's got some ghosty tales to share, Tim.
She's a coal miner's daughter, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do it. You know, we've got a couple more calls. Let's go ahead and take those calls right now.
All right.
Thank you, Dave. I just want to tell you that I was a young girl in Winona, Minnesota, and I thought, oh, this witch magic, or it was like funny or something, and it didn't entertain me. However, about a month later, as I was sleeping, this big cloak, something in a big cloak, no face, was looking at me. And I turned myself away because I knew that's not what I wanted. And a couple weeks later, I woke up and my head was wrenched again to the left, like, no. And I had to call for my father to come up and massage my neck because I was like obviously saying no to the dark entity. But I could not move my neck. When I moved up to the cities in Coon Rapids, I had a home where apparently the contractor, there were 7 houses in a row, he was having an affair, and the wife caught him in our home that was just not even constructed, barely constructed, and she shot him. We bought the home in 1994. 2 years after it was finally complete, and there was an officer of the law that lived there, and they sold the house to us and moved like 3 blocks down. And I don't know, the house was a great price, and I was so happy, but there were very odd things that happened in the home to us after that. I mean, I don't know, but I'd like to talk to you further if we could. Thank you.
Hey, Dave and Tim. This is Chuck from Saratoga Springs. I was calling to tell you a story. I actually had started listening to you guys via the interweb when I was over in Hungary with my wife. She had gotten a posting over there. She's a college professor, and she got a posting over there for like 6 months. So we went to Hungary, and we lived in a little town called Veszprém, which is about an hour outside of Budapest. And it's really, really cool, little Baroque city, very cool. And lots of great history over there. And the Hungarian people are absolutely fantastic. But that's a whole other story. Nothing supernatural there. But one of the things that we used to do is travel on the weekends, and we'd go different places. And Europe is so cool because you can get around everywhere very easily by train or by bus. And we went to Geneva, Switzerland one weekend and hung out and looked at stuff. And even though neither one of us are very religious, we liked going to churches, mainly because there's just so much of the area's history and culture is there. It's usually a nice blending of the history and music and art, a lot of that kind of stuff. When you realize that a lot of these really beautiful cathedrals and churches were built with the raw materials and slave labor from conquered other countries, it's sort of harshes a little bit, but still, it's the history. So anyway, we had gone to Geneva, and we went to the Cathedral of Saint Pierre. Easy for you to say. And the Cathedral of Saint Pierre is actually very interesting because it was built. Actually, there's ruins underneath the cathedral from the Roman era, and they just started doing within the last 10 years. They did a lot of excavation there, uncovering a lot of this stuff. So it's very, very cool. You can go down there and see lots of really interesting art and stuff that's part of the history of this cathedral. And of course, above the cathedral, if you Google image it and look at it, the images are absolutely gorgeous of the cathedral itself. Is actually beautiful. But that's not even the story. The story is that we had gone down and gone through the ruins underneath, and it was really very interesting, and we got a lot of interesting pictures and things. And we came back upstairs, and we're in the main part of the cathedral. Not being religious, don't know what that's called, but there you go, the main part of the cathedral. And we're walking around and sort of looking at art. And I look up and I see this very tall, very thin guy with sort of an abnormally large head. And I've always been sensitive to other people's stuff. Not some paranormal things, but those things happen, but a lot of it I don't really understand. So it sort of goes by me, and I acknowledge that it exists, but I don't engage with it. And I've always had this feeling of connection with something outside of me. So anyway, I look up, and this guy looks at me dead on in the eyes, and I feel like, oh my God, he's communicating with me. And I don't get anything except they're here. That's all I, and I said it out loud to my wife, and I just said, they're here. And she goes, what? And I said, they're here. And this guy looks at me and does like this weird sweeping motion towards me, moves towards me, and then sort of in an arc moves away from me. At that moment, I was ready to take out my camera. The next thing I know, I'm outside of the Cathedral of St. Pierre with my wife. And I said, do you remember what just happened? She said, we walked around for like 10 minutes and then we came outside. They're here? Yeah, you were saying something, and then we just started walking around the rest of the inside of the cathedral, and then we decided to leave. And that's my story. So I think that 10 minutes or so was wiped from my mind. The impulse to take out my camera was wiped from my mind, and they're here. So talk to you later. Love you guys. I listen all the time. And Dave, you're insightful. You ask a lot of great questions, and you and Tim make me laugh every time I listen to the podcast. You guys are absolutely freaking hilarious. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. Bye.
Again, thank you very much for your phone calls and your emails. You can always email your stories to me, dave@darknessradio.com, dave@darknessradio.com, or you can call now, just like our callers have been doing, at 651-300-4977, 651-300-4977, and leave your paranormal encounter right there. All right, our final two emails. Tim, are you ready?
Ready.
Hi, Dave and Tim. I've recently found your podcast and have been listening to it nonstop, as well as Darkness Radio Archives. Some of the stories you tell are so fascinating and eerie. For as long as I can remember, I've always had weird things happen to me. I try and rationalize things before immediately saying it's paranormal related, but a few things that have happened, I just can't rule it out. I have a few stories I would like to share with you from over the years, but this one more so as it's meaningful to me. Bear with me, as it is a bit of a long one. Okay, about 12 years ago, when I was 18, one of my family friends sadly and suddenly passed away. Heart attack when he was at the wheel of his car. I say he was a family friend, but I considered him more of a second father to me, and he treated me like his own child. He used to live over here in England, but moved over to the States when he was younger with his wife and studied there and became a professor at one of the universities in Ohio. They had a little house across the road from where I lived. When they moved, they didn't sell it, and every year they used to come over and stay for a vacation for a couple of weeks. It was the highlight of the year for me when they would come over and catch up with them, and not to mention all the cool stuff they brought me from America. Anyway, back to what happened. Well, it's a bit of a two-part story, so please bear with me. One morning, the phone rang really early, just before I was leaving for work at about 6:45. My father answered it, and I thought it was a bit strange for someone to call so early. As I was about to leave the house, my dad walked out into the hall, and I asked him who was on the phone. He said, Tracy, not her real name. And she just wanted to let him know about the plans for when they were coming home. I didn't think much of it, and off I went to work for the day. I got home in the evening, and my dad and mom and brother were all in, and I sensed that something was very wrong. I asked, and they said it was nothing. Again, I just shrugged it off and went upstairs to play on my Xbox. Later on in the evening, my dad and brother went out as they normally do on a Friday night. Then my mom came upstairs into my room and said she needed to speak with me. So I paused the game, and she just said, John died. I looked at her confused and asked her, What? Who? She repeated, John. And it took me a few seconds to click on who she meant. She told me he had a heart attack and was found dead in the garage in his car. Obviously, I was very shocked and upset and broken down in tears. My dad didn't want to tell me before I went to work in the morning and thought it would be better coming from my mom. Okay, a few weeks later, I was laying in my bed in my room, just lying there with the curtains closed and just relaxing, doing nothing. My brother was already out and my dad was getting ready to go too, as it was Friday evening. At that point, my mom used to give a lift to my dad down to the pub, about 10 minutes drive there and back. So they both shout out, "Bye!" and they left the house. I was on my own and just literally doing nothing but lying down. All of a sudden, about 2 minutes after they left the house, the strangest feeling I've ever felt happened to me. I went really cold, like freezing cold. I felt like I couldn't move. I tried to physically, but I couldn't. I wanted to just open the curtains that was literally 6 inches away from my bed, but I was unable to. For some reason, I thought if I opened them, this feeling would go away. I felt like I wasn't alone and someone or something was in this room with me. I wasn't scared as such, but I was freaking out in my head because I didn't know what was happening and why I couldn't move or was feeling this way. I became really fearful and tears built up in my eyes and then rolled down my cheeks. I heard the front door downstairs open, and it was my mom back from dropping my dad off at the pub. As soon as the feeling, coldness, and tears appeared, they disappeared. As soon as my mom got home, it felt like a weight lifted off me. I ran downstairs and met my mom in the hallway. She could clearly see there was something wrong as I still had tear streaks down my face. I told her what had happened, and she just looked at me and said, "Well, you know what day it is, don't you?" I replied, "Yeah, Friday." She replied, "No. What day is it?" I got a bit annoyed and with her and snapped at her. "It's Friday." She then said words to me that sent a chill down my spine. "It's John's funeral today." I just paused and thought, what the hell? Looking back at this time, it was about 1900 over here, and where they lived, it would have been about 1500-ish, and the times match up as to where the funeral would have been. I don't know if it was just a weird coincidence that I had these feelings on the day of his funeral, or was it him visiting one more time to say goodbye in some sort of way, one last time. So I thought it would be the last time. Here's the second part of the story. A few years passed, and I'm now 21 or 22, and ever since I was little, my American friends had always said they wanted me to come over and visit them. No more so than John. Well, with him passing away, his wife asked me if I wanted to come and visit for a couple of weeks. Now I was older and could afford to fly over. I jumped at the chance to go, especially because I would be over there for Halloween, my favorite time of year. And my God, you Americans are amazing with the way you decorate and celebrate everything that day. Anyway, I fly out in the early morning. I think it was about 7 or 8 hour flight. I had a few hour layover in Chicago before getting my connecting flight to Cincinnati and arrived there early evening. I was met in the airport by Tracy and went to meet her son, who I had not seen since I was very little. He was a lot older than I was and stopped coming over to the UK. We went for dinner in a restaurant we went to dinner at a restaurant before driving back to her house. It was about 2200 when we arrived at the house, and I got my case out of the car and walked into the house. It was weird. It was a strange layout. You walk in there and there's this lounge area and kitchen, a study and a bedroom, but you have to go downstairs to another living room, and just off of there was a bedroom. And that's the room I was staying in. I put my case on the bed and came back into the living room. I was looking around the new environment and my new home for a few weeks, and I saw John's drum kit sat in the corner of the room. I remembered thinking to myself, it's a shame I'll never get to see him play it. We sat down and had TV on in the background as we talked and had a nice catch-up. I'm sitting on the couch. She is sat in her armchair. The dog is on the floor near my feet. Out of nowhere, we hear an almighty crash. We both jumped up and looked at each other, startled, before turning around to see what the hell was the noise. We both stood up and took a couple of steps before seeing what had caused the noise. One of the stands of the drum kits with the symbol on it had somehow fallen over and was lying on the floor. I asked her straight away, has that ever happened before? And she said, no, that's a first. I was looking around to come up with what could have caused it. The only thing that I could logically think of was the dog. But she was by my feet. Or was it the wind? But it was late October. All the windows were closed. A few other things crossed my mind, but nothing made sense, especially because the drum kit was on a flat wooden surface. John used to know I was interested in the paranormal and stuff like that, and I thought this was him again, letting me know he was around. I didn't feel like I did when I was at my house, and just a bit puzzled now. What and why the symbol, and what could hit it to make it change with such force? I like to think the two experiences I had were just him saying hello. What do you guys think? I would appreciate your thoughts on these if you have the time. Like I said, I have a few more stories for you, but I think this one's long enough and will do for now. I will say that my other stories include when I worked in an old psychiatric hospital that was built in 1849 and was literally a place back in the day where they kept the mentally ill locked up. Another one was about when I visited an old Victorian jail and had a few weird things happen there, and a funny one regarding the use of a Frank's box and having a spirit take a shine to me. Thank you guys for your show. Keep up the amazing work. I'm so glad I found you guys. You have literally got me hooked on your shows, and that comes from James. Well, thanks, James. Yeah, I don't know. To me, it sounds like maybe just your buddy popping in to let you know he's around and everything's okay.
That may be, yeah.
Dave. That's how this one starts off, Tim. Dave. Not Dave and Tim, just Dave.
That's nice for you.
It's Dave. Yeah. Tim. I don't know if I mentioned the way this started. Dave.
I think you have.
I first started listening to your show after your Talk is Jericho appearance, and now listen daily at my wonderful cubicle job. I'm a scientist by trade and fully believe in the paranormal and unexplained. I take a lot of ribbing for my stance and view on the paranormal. If the science and technology ever allow it, I would leave my job immediately to become a real-life Ghostbuster. I'm holding out on my college roommate who is a particle physicist creating some crazy laser technology. I cautiously research minimal paranormal events because I do not want to bring anything bad into my life. I've only had one minor paranormal experience when I was a child, as I have a theory there is something or someone watching over me my entire life. I'll share with you my most vivid paranormal experience that I can remember. I grew up in a house where 4 generations of my family had lived, and a few members have passed away in that house. One of the main features of the house is a big room on the first floor where a beautiful black baby grand piano sits that has been in my family for generations. Growing up, we referred to the room as the music room. The piano belonged to my great-aunt Irene. Irene was an accomplished organ and piano player, and during my mother's childhood, she made a living as the top piano instructor in town. Great-aunt Irene raised my mother, her brother, and sister because my grandmother passed away when my mother was only 5. My grandfather was a timber surveyor who spent his days working and driving all over the Upper Peninsula. Right before I was born, Great-Aunt Irene passed away in her sleep in the house I grew up in. I was around 8 years old and woke up one night from my sleep and looked at this clock in my room. It was right before midnight, and I was in a little bit of a daze trying to figure out why I woke up. I suddenly realized I heard light piano music playing. My bedroom was on the second level along with my parents' and my sister's bedroom. I know my mom would play piano at night to help her relax and was very skilled at playing softly as not to wake anyone. I remember I found this odd that I could distinctly hear music coming from downstairs and went to go wake up my father to tell him to see why Mom was playing the piano this late at night. With the music still playing, I walked into my parents' room only to notice I heard not only my dad snoring, but also my mother snoring as well. I peeked my head inside the room and saw both of them sawing logs and sound asleep. This sent initial fear down my spine, but I realized it could have been my sister, who was pretty good at piano as well at the time, trying to get some late-night practice in. I went to the hallway and headed to her room when I noticed that her door was cracked open, and I saw her fast asleep. I remember my heart aching as I saw her lying there, and my next thought was, who or what was playing the piano? The music never stopped or wavered, and it sounded beautiful to my ears. It sounded like someone who was very skilled and softly playing my great-aunt Irene's piano. I knew I had to go see what was going up, so I gathered up all my courage that I could find, and my family and friends and wife and I can attest to what a big scaredy cat I am. And I made my way to the stairs. I knew if I could sneak halfway down the hall on those old creaky steps, I could peer into the music room and see the piano and who was playing it. I felt like it was an eternity. So I crept down the steps, not trying to make any noise. I reached the midway point where I thought I could peer into the music room and slowly knelt down to look. As I started to gaze into the music room, the music abruptly ended, mid-note, and the cover to the keys slammed down. I rushed back up to my bed, dove headfirst under the covers, and I tried to sleep. But I couldn't sleep that night and had trouble sleeping for the few nights after that, always waiting to hear that melody being played. A few weeks passed, and one afternoon I was playing Techno Super Bowl on my Nintendo when I noticed my mom sitting at the piano. She started playing Yesterday by the Beatles, her favorite song, when she suddenly stopped and switched to a completely different song. As soon as she struck the first few notes, the hair on the back of my neck stood up and chills ran down my spine. It was the song I heard at night, and I turned ghostly white. I got up and went over to the piano, and she noticed something, Tim. She noticed something wasn't right with me.
Uh-oh.
Mom's paying attention, Tim. She asked me what was the matter, and I asked her what the name of that song was. She said it was Moonlight Sonata by Beethoven. I explained to her what happened the night, and she said she just had a big smile on her face. Mom informed me that Moonlight Sonata was Irene's favorite song, and Irene would play it at night to relax before bed. All fear I had for that moment immediately lifted, and from that day on, I always felt that it was Irene trying to get me to fall asleep the best way she knew how, and always felt she and many others had passed before her have been looking out for me my entire life. Keep on doing what you guys are doing. I love the show, and thank you for getting through my lovely cubicle every day. Go Pack, go. Sorry.
Oh.
And that comes from John in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Oh, see your buddy.
Go and ruin
your
it.
buddy who, just Dave.
Nice.
Yeah. Said go Pack, go,
John.
Dave.
Jeez. Well, that's it for this show. We'll be back again tomorrow with a brand new episode of the best in paranormal talk radio. So for our supernatural news correspondent, Tim Dennis, and your host, Dave Schrader, thank you for tuning in and making us part of your world. We'll be back again tomorrow right here on Beyond the Darkness.